What's going on YouTube? Welcome to episode 112 of the U.S.S. Enterprise D tutorial. I'm Zero Elite and I just want to thank you very much for tuning in today's episode. And if you haven't, please don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button and helping me in supporting the channel. I can't thank you enough for that. And of course, don't forget to join the Discord channel. I'll have a link in the description below. I have a poll going right now for my next ship build poll. And once you join the Discord, you'll see the tab Next Build Poll. Be sure to join that and vote on what your the next ship that you want to see me build in Minecraft. Also, if you can, help me out, hit the share button and help me out in sharing this video with your friends. I'd really appreciate it because we've got our goal of hitting 1,000 subscribers. Once we hit 1,000 subscribers, I'm going to be doing a tutorial on the Star Trek Beyond Enterprise A. I'm really looking forward to that. I showed off a bit of the concept art in episode 111, but if you missed that, be sure to go on my Discord channel. I have posted the screenshots of the concept art on my general discussion tab, so be sure to check that out. But anyway, we've got about a 32-minute episode today, so we're just going to be hopping right into it. We're going to be working on the outline here of the neck, where it transitions from the neck into the saucer. Now, this is actually going to be a first attempt. Now, I'm pretty sure, yeah, because at this point, this first attempt that I've done, I haven't really gone back and done a second one. Well, actually, technically that's not true, I have. But I've reverted back to what we're doing right now because I haven't come up with something that I like as much as what I have right now. Because basically what we're making is the separation point from where the neck and the saucer separate. Now, with that being said, there is going to be a slight discrepancy with that, and that being that the outline that I have is not really wide enough to what it's supposed to be. Because if and you don't believe me and take my word for it, pull up screenshots of the Enterprise D or model and look at this area of the ship. You'll see exactly where I'm talking about, the outline. It kind of fans out a little bit from the neck itself, and mine is coming right up on that neckline. Now I have tried to replicate this based off of the direct Eaglemoss Enterprise, but what ended up happening was that when I made it wider, for some reason, it looked a little jarring. In other words, the pattern wasn't staying together, is what I have right here. So that's going to be something that I'm sure at some point I'm going to go back and want to fix it, because that's just going to stand out and bug me until I do fix it. But right now, if you want to replicate, if you want to do the same thing, feel free, go for it, because this is the exact same outline that I have on my underside of the saucer. But just bear in mind, at one point or another, we're probably going to be updating this if I can find out, or if I can figure out a way to do it that I'm happy with, that it looks better than what I have right here. Because I think what I do like, what I have going on here, is that each row that we transition, the pattern isn't getting messed up at all. Like it's kind of weird because when I made it wider, I did it in the exact same pattern of two. I did it in the exact same pattern of 2x2. Excuse me, I had something stuck in my throat. And even doing it with the 2x2, with it being wider, maybe it was just a placement on the saucer, but it wasn't coming out to the point where I was happy with it. So I mean, it just kind of is what it is on that point. But again, this is something we're going to be messing with at one point or another. Where because like this line really needs to start like right where the impulse engine is, and then transition inward. We're not doing too bad though. I think this week, again, we're primarily going to be focusing on the exterior of the ship, with the exception of the last episode of the week. I believe on that episode we're going to be going back on the inside of the ship and working on the engineering area, and I think we're going to be doing some more prep work for the actual what will become the deflector control room. But, you know, just going to be taking a little bit of time to get some of this exterior detailing done without blowing these videos up too much. I think I have yet to have an hour-long episode on the Enterprise D so far, and I think I kind of want to keep it that way because I think I did one or two for the Disco era Enterprise, and I might have had one or two for the Cerritos. I noticed that the hour-long episodes, they don't tend to do as well as the shorter ones because it is kind of hard to keep somebody's attention span for that length of time. So that's one of the reasons why I don't have these videos so long. Even some of these going at 15 to 20 minutes, you'd be surprised not that many people actually watch these videos all the way through. But also with that being said too, you know, you may not necessarily need everything that I'm going over to watch. You may not watch all these videos, you know, for my added commentary and whatnot. Even though, like, I feel like I am getting a little bit better at doing the commentary, having a lot less dead space during my episodes. I try to think of the relevant things to talk about during these episodes, and of course, talking about the subject matter where it's relevant. But anyway, right now we're not looking too bad. We've got our outline in place here. What we're really going to have to do at this point is, I think we're going to have to add in a few more rows and then kind of taper or oval it off at the end, and then just call that a day, and then we'll move on to the windows for the rest of today's episode. But yeah, the windows is going to take up a considerable amount of our time, but I promise you this, it'll be worth it. You know, these builds, especially the Enterprise D, this is not something that's meant to be done over the course of a weekend or a week. And I mean, if you are able to rush through this thing, I mean, good for you, but I mean, I don't really see that as being an option because, in just my experience anyway, I feel like the more you rush these things, the more likely you are to make mistakes, or it's not going to come out that well because you didn't really plan it out all that much, and you're just going to run into some more issues than what you may have originally intended. Because I mean, I've been working on this build since February of 2021, which is actually kind of crazy because now it's, you know, officially over a year now that I've been working on this build, and I still have a ton of work to do on it. Not that much, but I've got a little bit of work to do. I talked about this in yesterday's episode as far as what I have left to do. I really have to flesh out all the quarters on the crew quarter deck, and then I have to do the medical deck, and then down in the lower hull, I actually have to do, I think, like 2 levels on the neck, and then the back lower side of the lower hull. That's going to be something I have to do as well. But after that, then the ship's actually done. Oh, and other than doing the registration. But, I mean, it may take just a little bit of time to do that because the medical deck is actually bigger than the crew deck. So take that in mind. But anyway, getting what we got going on here. What I'm going to be doing here is looking for patterns of 3s or singles where I can add in my windows. And I'm doing this row right here. I'm having them in the same spot. Except for that one, I had to go one back just to keep the pattern intact. But actually on this row right here, it actually is correct. It's not until you get over to the other side that that bottom row looks wrong. But yeah, that's literally all I'm going to be doing right here for the pattern in the windows. I'm either going to be looking for a row of 3 and putting a single window in the middle, or a single row where I can add in a window. But with that being said, I'm not going to do that on every single one. I'm kind of going to do this sparingly, and you know, just to see how it looks, because sometimes less is more. You don't always want to just overflood your ship with detail if you don't necessarily need it. And that's one of the reasons why I do this in the way that I do, because when you take your time with it, you can kind of keep up with what you're adding and looking at everything else as a whole to see if something is too much. Or as opposed to maybe if you just shotgun it and you had a bunch of windows, you might end up realizing later on that, hey, I might have added way too many windows. I might need to take a little bit away here and there. That's kind of why I do this the way I do. I'd rather, slow and steady wins the race, add them little by little, see how they look. But the sacrifice in that is just that it's going to take a little bit of time um, to really get all of them done, because we're really trying to give them the care that they need to see if it's going to be too much in the areas that we're adding them in. Because the other thing too is that we really don't need to add windows um, going all the way around as we go row to row. But we need to add enough to where it looks like there's several rooms on the ship, and we're going to have to add a couple of rows above them and also going below them on the underside of the saucer to make this thing end up looking bigger than it actually is. While some of these windows will be used, not all of them will end up being used, especially as we get to the outer edge of the saucer, because that outer edge is actually pretty much going to be reserved for the medical deck. And you'll see what I mean when we get on the interior of the ship and kind of how way I have it structured. The crew quarters doesn't actually come out to the lip like I wanted it to, and that's just due to the placement of it. Is that it's just the crew deck is actually just too low for it to come out to the edge of the saucer, and it's not really a big deal. It's just one of those things, and I actually made a tiny mistake right there that I might need to fix. But yeah, it's not really a big deal to have it come out, or at least have the medical deck focused on that the lip. But that will be kind of cool because we'll actually have a little bit more room, and it'll work out really nicely. Because the other thing to consider too is that the crew quarters are really not going to take up that much room. What I'm planning on doing with the medical deck, having a combination of all the medical areas as well as the science areas, that's probably going to take up the majority of the room of things that I'm planning on doing for the ship. So it just kind of works out that way. And then what we can do too in some of these areas, for some of our interior that requires windows, maybe they're not lined up where we have a window in place, we can facade them out. It's not a big deal. I'm going to show you how to do all of that, because at the end of the day, you can totally get away with stuff like that in Minecraft, and most people won't really bat an eye at it. And it's all in how you do it. If you take the time to make it look nice and pretty, that's exactly what you'll get. It'll look nice and pretty and look like it was intended that way from the get-go. Now, in a perfect world, yes, I would like to have all my windows lined up with a deck or a quarter, but from what I'm really going for here and trying to accomplish, and that's just one simple thing of, let's make the ship look bigger than it is. And doing that, that's going to cause us to sacrifice a lot of these windows, which I'm honestly fine with, because I would rather, when this thing is done and we're going on our tour of it, looking at it from the outside, I have my video up for that as a way to show people this tutorial. I'd rather people be blown away by the sheer scale of the ship and not fully realize, hey, this thing is actually smaller. And then when they do realize it's smaller, it might be like, oh, wow, that's actually kind of cool. The ship doesn't look that small. How did he do that? And this is how you do it. This is 110% how you do it. You just literally facade out your decks, and yeah. This row is going to be a perfect row to add a single block. You can even see I took the one row off the left side here because I just decided that I didn't want that many going in a pattern. I want to split it up a little bit. And I mean, if you want to go in straight across in a pattern, I say go for it. Do what works for you on this build, because, again, what I'm doing isn't necessarily what you have to do, and vice versa. If you think that something that you're doing is better, go for it. But, just take into consideration that, at the end of the day, there's 1,000,001 ways to do these ships. So your way isn't the right way. My way isn't the right way. It's just, it comes down to preference and what you think looks better. And I say just go for that, Go for whatever you think is going to work. And hopefully, some of the window patterns that we're adding, that I'm going to be adding here today, is going to help you in giving you an idea of what you want to do. And if you feel that you want to just copy what I have, go for it. I've got quite a few people that I've been in contact with on the Discord channel, and they've been posting their updates of the Enterprise D build, and they've just, it's blown me away, because the accuracy that I've seen these people build this thing out to is actually pretty impressive, and it makes me feel good, because then they'll tell me, like, oh no, that's how you did the tutorial. You explained it in a way that was super easy for me to follow, and that makes me feel good, because at least I'm doing something right. And my video totally paused here, and I didn't realize why, and then I looked over and I see my cat just decided to walk right across my keyboard. No F's given. She doesn't care. Everything stops for her. Lyra, go see your mom. Take her. No, because I have my way I have my desk set up, which is actually my work desk, because I've been working from home now for about a year. We have our cat tree that's literally right next to my desk, so my cats kind of use my desk now as a highway to walk across my desk onto the cat tree, or walk from the cat tree across my desk over to my fiance's desk. So yeah, it's definitely cool, because I get to spend some time with them, but then they also can be very demanding, because then all of a sudden they want attention when I'm not able to give it to them, and then they just sit there right in front of you while you're working. You're like, no, you're going to give me attention. Cats are ridiculous. Very spoiled, but I love them. You can see here these windows on the left and right. I'm actually filling them in because I'm not really filling the ones on the sides there. I wanted just like a nice pattern of 3 going across, rather than them being wider. So that's all we're doing right now. We're just getting rid of the wider windows on each side and replacing them with something a little bit more tightly together. Because what I originally intended just wasn't working, because when I came back and looked at it, what I really wanted to do was have 3 windows going across, but these windows on the side here, what was going to end up happening was that these would be separate rooms, and that's just, it's not working for me. So we're going to get rid of these ones on the on the far sides, and just add in the 2 on each side, the one in the middle. And we're actually ended up restructuring how these windows are placed, because we're going to need to make them going up at an angle. I'll show you how to do that when we get in and we do the 10 forward bar. That'll be pretty cool. But yeah, we're going to end up, I think we'll, when everything's said and done, I know I end up using the front one, of course, for 10 forward, and then the left one, I think this ends up where we're looking at right now. I think this ends up being the small theater that they did their plays at. And the one on the right, I want to say the one on the right I decided just not to use. And the reason I did that was because I just decided, I'm like, well, I've got 2 lounges that I already made. Like, if I really wanted to, I could have went in and filled it in. But I just decided not to, because I didn't want to basically retread what I'd already done basically twice so far, and also just to help out the tutorial a little bit. Now, with that being said, once I get in there and I show you what I did, if you guys decide that you do want to fill in that right side, I say go for it. If you definitely want to do that, you can do that. And to be honest with you, I may do that at one point myself. It just may not end up making it into the tutorial, because I was trying to help it out on time and length of this so far, because we're in episode 112, and at the end of the day, I've got a ton of content already pre-recorded, and there's still things left to do. So I don't know how many episodes this is going to end up being, but this has already ended up being my longest tutorial that I've done so far. And like I said, and I've been kind of preaching this as I've been going to prepare people that, this is a long one, and it's intended that way because the sheer scale of this, that again, if this is something that you're working on, you're getting frustrated because I'm not going fast enough, or you want to do it in the weekend, you're working on the wrong ship. And at that point, I'd recommend working on either the Cerritos or the Enterprise A, or not the Enterprise A, the Disco era Enterprise tutorials that I did, because those you can get done in a much shorter period of time. This thing is just, it's going to take time to do it right. And that's just come down to the scale of it. But I'm not really mad at it. It's been time consuming to do this thing the right way. Now, I do want to talk about how I did the windows going up at an arch like that. That's actually more or less what we're going to end up doing. But I think what was tripping me up is that I didn't have anything on the left and right side of the wall there. So it didn't look completed. So with that being said, when we come back, we are pretty much going to kind of arch them up going like that. But what we'll end up having to do is add layers on the sides here, so it looks like it was built in that way. But that's what we're going to end up doing with that. We won't have these flat windows, kind of what we have right now. These are more of just a stand-in. So this way that we know when we come over to this area, like, okay, these are the main lounge areas that we have on the ship, and that's what they need to be. Except for this one. On the right side, this windows are pretty much just going to be a facade on my build, but I was just talking about that. If you decide that you want to fill those in, go for it. And like I said, I might end up doing that myself based off the same template that I did for the 10 forward lounge, but just not including it in the tutorials. This way I don't blow it up just a little bit more. All right, so now moving on from our lounge windows, I think I'm getting ready to add a row of windows on the lower hull that will eventually go into the captain's yacht, because we're gonna have to add a couple of rows here on this lower side here. We're probably gonna have to add 3 or 4. And then even on the neck, we're going to have to, or not the neck, but the saucer, we're going to have to add 3 or 4. So I was looking at it, I was thinking, kind of what I wanted to do there, but I just decided, like, well, I'll just kind of take a break from it. I've already started working on the outline of the saucer. I think I maybe would rather prefer to get, these rows completed before I move on to another area and kind of go from there. Again, you can see I've already given you guys the secret here as far as what I'm doing. I'm looking for rows of 3 or more, basically where I can center it. And even on this row, that's a row of 4, so I'm only filling in the middle 2. So you're looking for rows of 3, 4, and 1. If you want the cleanest outline for your windows here. Or at least this is what I'm doing. I think this looks the best. You might be surprised, just wait until this is done. You may not see it now, but once we adding a couple more rows of windows, it's going to take this from looking, from basically where this is one deck right here, where the lip is, to making it look like there's 5 or 6 decks just on the lip of the saucer, which is going to be freaking awesome because, again, this is going to help us with the scale of the ship and selling, that it's much larger than it really is. Because one of the things I'm actually really happy with on this build is that some of the areas on the ship on the inside, they are quite massive. And someone might say, like, oh, well, you just did this to fill in space. And you wouldn't be wrong, but that's not the main reason why I did that. The main reason why I have these grandiose areas on the inside of the ship is just for what I'm doing right now with facading the windows, is that I'm trying to sell the scale of the ship. And I find it hard to believe that they wouldn't have these, giant areas on the ship. Really what inspired me with that was the main shuttle bay. And that was something they never showed on TNG. Actually, I'm wrong. They showed it on one episode, and they only showed it from the outside. You never got a chance to actually go inside and see it. But if you haven't, I've talked about this in the past. Do a search for USS Enterprise D Unreal Engine Tour. Um, I think it's like the first or second one on YouTube that you can find. They start off by going into the primary shuttle bay, and you realize just how massive this area is. And I got to thinking on it. I was like, wow, like, this is something that I can do with some of the areas on my ship, really making them larger than life, because it's going to help to sell the scale of the ship when you come inside this thing. And not just one area, but several areas on the interior are going to be like this. Um, and not as many as you think. And like, I don't do it with every single room. Kind of like my rule of thumb with it has been so far that anything that like I'm referencing from the show, I'm trying to stay true to it, like within the 99.9% tile, if I can. Um, Areas where I can get away with making exceptions, like with areas of the ship that they talked about, like the park, for example. Like, there was that episode in Next Generation where Barclay got zapped by that computer and he became super smart. And one of the first things that he does is he hits on Deanna Troi and asks her to go for a walk in the park. And I just got to thinking, like, he didn't mention the arbitorium. He mentioned the park. So to me, that would give me the indication that the Enterprise D did have an arbitorium, but probably had a park as well that you can just walk through. And that kind of like inspired me to build out this park on the inside of the ship that looks freaking awesome. It's got like this giant waterfall in it, and like it's got like actual trees in it, and it looks very cool. And there's a lot of other areas like that too, like the very center of our saucer with the mall slash aquarium. That's a pretty massive area. And then, like I said, there's a few areas that are ending up like that, and I think that'll be really cool because when we do this tour, this will be the other thing that will be the longest episode that I'll have for that category of video that I'm doing. The tour itself is going to be the longest one because it's going to take a few minutes to walk through every single area on this ship. It really is. But we're not doing too bad. We're doing pretty good. And I'm liking the layout that we have for our windows so far. This isn't looking bad at all. Got about 5 minutes left in today's episode. While we're going with the windows here, I don't know those of you that have been keeping up with Star Trek Picard, but they did a featurette for season 2. And I won't say what ship it is, just for the sake of spoilers, because I know probably not everybody's seen it. But it did at least somewhat get me excited for season 2 Picard, because there's going to be at least one new ship class that we're going to be able to build on, based off of Star Trek Picard. And because I'm not going to lie, like the Shanghai, I think it was the ship that Riker was on in the finale, I wasn't really overly fond of how that ship looked. It looked very weird. Didn't really feel like a TNG ship. But the ship that they showed in the promo for season 2, and I'm sure somebody's probably thinking like, oh, it's the Enterprise. That's why I said new ship, because it's not the Enterprise. But I won't say what it is. But it did kind of get me excited. I'm like, okay, this is going to be a ship I'm going to end up doing a tutorial on. I sense it. Because it looks like it's a very cool looking ship, and it just seems like that's going to be something that people are going to want. And also when I saw some of the interior shots on it, it looks like they finally, listened, I think, to the fans a little bit with Picard, and they're backtracking a little bit rather than to bring it back, to what it was, as opposed to changing things on Star Trek. That's like one of the things, like, and I've been saying this for a really long time with Star Trek, like, I wish somebody like J.J. Abrams would come in and take the care with Star Trek like they did with Star Wars. Like, you didn't see them rebooting the Millennium Falcon when the new movies came out. All they did was update the dish on it, and that was it. Other than that, it was the same ship that everybody saw before, and they made a point like, no, it has to look this way, it's within canon. I wish that they take that same care with Star Trek and, stay within the era of TNG. And it looks like they're finally doing that a little bit, because based off of what I saw, the new ship It feels like a next generation era ship, and even the interior, like it looks a little bit fancier, but it's still like it feels like a next generation era ship, and that's really honestly all I've been wanting them to do. You know, just stay true to it rather as opposed to changing everything. You know, that was kind of like one of my criticisms with Discovery that, you know, they spent all this time and money changing stuff with that was right within canon. And you know, I was like one of the first people that said it. Like, if you wanted holograms and you wanted all these changes, like to the Klingons and everything else, why didn't you just go into the future of Next Generation, like over like 2,000 years or whatever, to make people so this way you could just do whatever you want, and this way you wouldn't make anybody upset, changing canon. And they ultimately ended up doing that. I think that if they would have done that with from the get-go with Discovery, I think people would have had um, less of a problem with all the changes that they made to it. And I honestly think that they're going to run into that same problem with Strange New Worlds. As excited as I am to see it, it seems like they're still on that same track with Strange New Worlds, where they're not really taking the care of what that Enterprise looked like from that era, and they're kind of like updating it way too much. Because like I said this before too, like the designs there aren't that bad. It's just obviously could use a little bit of updating because it was done in the 60s, but just keep the design the same and just make it look nicer. This way there's no doubt that it's the same ship, because I can get past certain things technology wise as long as they stay true to it in that regard, and it doesn't seem like they've really done it too much. But I don't know, we'll see how Strange New Worlds goes. I'm more excited about Strange New Worlds than I am for Picard season 2. um, but the other cool thing too is that hopefully we'll get even more ship classes with the upcoming season of Picard and Strange New Worlds. I do know right now for a while I kind of want to stay in the Next Generation era if I can. Um, that's of course excluding working on the Star Trek Beyond Enterprise A. That'll be coming up whenever I hit 1,000 subscribers. But I'm not really going to be counting that as like my main lineup of tutorials. That's just more of like a side goal that I have going on right now, because I have that poll that's on the Discord channel, and this is something that I'm probably going to be doing going forward. Depending on how popular it is, because I've had a ton of people giving me recommendations on stuff that they want me to do, and I noticed that it was kind of there wasn't really a way for me to gauge what people actually wanted, and then it just kind of dawned on me, like, just take everything that people have been suggesting and turn it into a poll and see which one wins out. Now what I can say is, as of right now, it does look like Voyager is probably going to end up being the one to win out on the poll, which I'm actually not surprised about, because even before I did that poll, Voyager was my #1 request. But if you do want to contribute and have your voice heard based off the list that I've generated, be sure to go on the Discord channel, vote on the next ship that you want to see me do, because I'm only going to be having that poll going as long as I'm working on the Enterprise D. The day I'm actually done with it, not doing the tutorial, but the day I'm done working on the Enterprise D, that's the day that the poll stops. And I'll give everybody a heads up when I'm getting close to being done. But yeah. But I do think that's going to wrap us up today. I definitely have gone over 30 minutes, but it is what it is. But if you can all help me out, hit that like and subscribe button, helping me in supporting the channel. I can't thank you enough for that. And new subscribers, don't forget to hit notifications on so you get notified when those new videos drop. And speaking of new videos, you can always catch my new Minecraft episodes dropping Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays, and Saturdays at 7 p.m. And of course, if you have any questions regarding today's episode, be sure to drop a comment below or in the Discord. Definitely love hearing from everybody. And yeah, I think that's going to do it for today. Just want to thank you all again for tuning in today's episode. And I hope everybody has a happy and safe week. And I'll catch you in the next episode. And of course, what did you make in Minecraft today? Let me know in the comments section. Let me know in Discord.